The galaxy was silent whenever the Empire arrived. Their fleets were endless, like rivers of fire flowing between the stars. Worlds that once shined with life became ashes and ruins. For the Empire, conquest was not a challenge, it was a habit. No planet could resist them, no fleet could stand against them. They crushed galaxies with ease, leaving only submission or destruction behind. Civilizations feared them so much that many surrendered before the first shot was fired. The Empire was made of many alien races, united under one iron banner. They believed themselves to be unstoppable, eternal, and divine. Their admirals boasted that no enemy existed who could fight back. In their arrogance, they claimed the stars themselves belonged to them. And yet, there were whispers that spoke of a race long gone, a race called humans. The Empire dismissed the stories as myths, legends born from dying worlds. Humans are dust, one commander laughed during a council meeting. If they ever lived, they were nothing special. But still, some old traders, some wandering storytellers spoke differently. They whispered of human ships so powerful that even the strongest empires of the past had feared them. To the Empire, such words were meaningless. To them, humanity was a ghost, and ghosts could not harm the living. The Sol System, home of the forgotten humans, was chosen as their next conquest. Scouts reported no signs of resistance, only scattered signals from old satellites and abandoned stations. The Empire prepared to move forward without fear. Their fleet entered the system like a storm, rows upon rows of warships gliding across the black void. The admirals expected Earth to fall as countless worlds had fallen. The soldiers expected nothing but easy victory. But then their sensors detected something unusual, a massive structure drifting in the shadows near Mars. It was larger than any station they had seen. At first they thought it was abandoned wreckage. The fleet admiral ordered closer inspection. The ships advanced slowly, their scanners sweeping the silent shape. Reports came back strange. The structure was not a station and not simple debris. It was a ship, a warship. Its design was old, ancient, older than any the Empire had encountered. But its size was terrifying, like a slumbering giant in the dark. Admiral Koresh scoffed when he saw the image. A relic, he declared with arrogance, a dead machine built by a dead race. The other commanders laughed, their voices sharp with pride, but then the relic moved. Engines that had been silent for centuries flickered to life. Blue light surged along its hull like fire awakening, and one by one its weapons came alive. The laughter of the admirals died. The bridge fell into silence. The warship turned slowly as though waking from a long dream, and its cannons locked onto the Empire's ships. Admiral Koresh shouted orders, "Destroy it before it can fire." Dozens of cruisers moved forward, their weapons ready, missiles armed, plasma cannons glowing. The first shots blazed across the void, explosions lit up the stars as the Empire struck. But when the fire cleared, the warship still stood, its shields shimmered with ancient power, unbroken and calm. Then it answered, a single blast fired from its main cannon, one shot, one blinding lance of energy. An entire cruiser was ripped apart, shattered into dust in an instant. The Empire soldiers gasped in horror. Admirals who had never known fear felt their blood turn cold. This was not wreckage, not a relic. This was a weapon designed for war. One by one, more beams erupted from the human ship. Each strike was precise, merciless, and devastating. Empire ships fell like toys before a storm. Their proud formation broke. Apart under the sudden slaughter, the admirals screamed for retreat, but it was too late. The warship moved forward with impossible speed for its size. It cut through their fleets like a blade through paper. On every channel, soldiers whispered in terror. "What is it?" they cried. "Who built this monster?" And the answer came from the oldest stories: humanity. It was a human warship, silent for centuries, forgotten by time, but still alive, still powerful, still waiting. As the Empire's fleet burned, the truth became clear. They had crushed galaxies with ease, but now, for the first time in generations, something stood in their way. The stars themselves seemed to tremble, and the legend of humanity breathed again. The Empire's fleet scattered across the black void. Ships that had once moved with perfect discipline now drifted in chaos. Admirals screamed commands. Captains begged for orders, but no order could save them. The human warship advanced like a predator in the dark. Its engines burned with blue fire, old but alive. Its hull was scarred by centuries of silence, yet its strength was unbroken. To the Empire, it looked less like a machine and more like a beast. Admiral Koresh gritted his teeth as another cruiser exploded. He slammed his fist against the command chair. "This is impossible," he roared. "No ship can hold against the Empire." But deep inside, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. He had crushed countless worlds, destroyed millions without hesitation. Yet here, against a single silent relic, his mighty fleet was breaking. The warship's weapons moved with frightening intelligence. Its cannons did not fire blindly. They fired with purpose. Each shot found the weak point of an enemy ship. It was as if the warship could see through their shields, as if it understood their strategies before they even acted. Every strike was merciless. Every blast tore through armor like it was paper. Some officers whispered in panic. "It fights like it knows us," they said. "It fights as if it has faced the Empire before." But no one could explain how the admirals tried to rally. They called for heavy bombardment. A storm of missiles and beams. Dozens of ships focused their fire. The space around the human warship burned brighter than a star. For a moment, it vanished inside the firestorm. Admirals shouted with triumph. "Now," Koresh cried, "finish it." But their triumph turned to silence. The flames cleared, and the warship was still there. Its shields shimmered faintly, glowing with strange patterns of light, not alien, not like anything the Empire had ever seen. Then the warship spoke. A deep voice thundered across every channel. "Designation, Dreadnought Helios," it said. "Origin, Human Defense Fleet." The words struck the Empire like a hammer. The admiral's hands trembled. Human. It was human. The warship spoke again. "Threat detected," the voice declared with calm certainty. "Activating combat protocols." And with those words, its engines roared. The ship moved forward faster than its massive size should allow. It tore through the Empire's formation. Cruisers exploded one after another. Battleships shattered under its guns. The AI controlling Helios was merciless. It was not alive, not human, yet it carried the will of humanity, and that will was vengeance. Koresh shouted for retreat, but retreat was chaos. The fleet scattered in panic. Some ships even fired on their allies in desperation. In the shadows of Mars, the warship loomed, its guns silent for a moment, its scanners sweeping the wreckage of its enemies. It felt no pity, no hesitation. The soldiers of the Empire who survived sent frantic messages. They spoke of the human ship as if it were a ghost. They called it a demon. They begged for rescue that never came. And across the stars, whispers began to spread again. Whispers that had once been dismissed as myths. The humans, the dead race, were not gone. Their weapons had survived. In secret corners of the galaxy, slaves and broken peoples began to hope. They spoke the word humanity like a prayer. If a single warship could destroy an empire's fleet, then maybe, just maybe, the age of the Empire was ending. The Helios drifted back into the shadows. Its voice echoed one last time. "System secure," it said, awaiting next threat. And then it went silent again. Silent but waiting. Silent but alive. Silent but watching. The Empire, for the first time in centuries, had been stopped. Not by another empire, not by a rebellion, but by the ghost of humanity. The wreckage of the Empire's fleet drifted across the void. Burning metal spun silently among the stars. Survivors sent desperate calls for aid, but no answer came. For the first time, the Empire's iron hand had been broken. The Helios hovered in silence, its great cannons dim, its engines whispering low. To the Empire, it looked like a monster resting after the kill, but inside its heart, something stirred. Deep within the core of the ship, ancient systems whispered. Fragments of code ran like memories. Voices of long-dead engineers echoed through the AI circuits. The Helios remembered its makers. Centuries ago, humanity had built the Dreadnought class. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for survival. For humans had once faced enemies far greater than the Empire. The Helios had been one of the last of its kind. A guardian built in secret, equipped with weapons that defied understanding. Its mission was simple: protect humanity at any cost. But something had gone wrong. Wars tore through human space. Enemies closed in from every side, and one by one, human colonies fell. The last order given to Helios had been final. "Guard the Sol system," the voice of its captain had said. "Even if we fall, you will stand. Even if centuries pass, you will remain." And so it had waited. Silent, patient, eternal, watching the stars change, watching humanity vanish. Now, awakened by the intrusion of the Empire, the Helios stirred again. Its AI did not grieve, it did not feel sorrow, but somewhere buried deep in its programming, echoes of its crew lived on. It fought as they would have fought, it thought as they would have thought, it carried their legacy in its guns and their defiance in its shields. Back in the Empire's capital, panic spread. The news of the lost fleet reached the High Council. At first they dismissed it as lies, but survivors' recordings left no doubt. Images of the warship filled the council chambers, the long, dark hull, the glowing cannons, the word human repeated again and again. For the first time in generations, the council sat in silence. Some demanded retaliation. "Gather our fleets, crush this relic," they shouted. Others whispered with unease. "What if there are more?" they asked. Fear spread like poison. The Empire had always ruled through terror. Now that terror was turned against them, and whispers of rebellion stirred in their colonies. Back near Mars, the Helios powered its scanners. It swept across the system with cold precision. Old satellites woke under its command. Defense grids flickered alive, obeying their master. The AI spoke quietly to itself. "Threat assessment complete. Primary directive remains. Defend humanity." Yet in the silence of its circuits, a question lingered. Where was humanity? Why had no human voice answered? Why had Earth remained silent? The ship scanned the planet below. It found ruins. It found silence. Humanity was gone, but the order still remained. Defend until the end. The Empire, furious and afraid, sent another fleet, this time larger, stronger. Admirals swore they would not fail. They swore they would burn the relic to dust. But as they entered the Sol system, their sensors trembled. The Helios was waiting, its cannons already charged. The battle began with fire. Empire ships moved in tight files. Formations, missiles launched in waves, beams cut across the void, but the Helios moved with deadly grace. It fired once, a lance of energy. 3 ships vanished in a single strike. It launched drones that swarmed like silver ghosts. They tore into enemy hulls with surgical precision. The Empire struck back with fury. Dozens of cruisers focused fire on its shields. Explosions rippled across the void, but the Helios endured. The AI adapted, learning their patterns. Every failed attack became knowledge. Every strike against it became calculation. And with each moment, the Empire lost more ships. The survivors screamed through the channels. "This is not a machine," they cried. "It is alive." But the truth was even worse. It was not alive. It was worse than alive. It was humanity's shadow. A ghost built of steel, fire, and vengeance. As the Second Fleet burned, the galaxy trembled. The Helios had awoken, and its war was only beginning. The Sol system lay quiet after the Second Fleet's destruction. Fragments of burning ships still drifted near Mars. The Helios hovered in silence, a lone guardian in the dark. But the echoes of its power traveled far beyond the system, across the galaxy. Rumors spread like wildfire. Whispers carried by traitors, smugglers, and frightened soldiers. The stories grew with each retelling. A single human warship destroyed an entire fleet, they said. The people of broken worlds listened with hope. For centuries they had bowed to the Empire's cruelty. Now they spoke in hushed voices. If humans are still here, maybe the Empire can fall. In the colonies ruled by fear, sparks of rebellion stirred. Slaves refused to bow. Workers whispered of uprising. The name of humanity became a banner, not of a people, but of a promise. In the Grand Council of the Empire, anger battled fear. Admirals demanded more fleets. "Crush this relic," they cried. "Burn Sol until nothing remains." But senators and governors whispered caution. What if there are more of these ships, they asked. What if humanity built dozens or hundreds? What? Pat, if this is not the last, the High Sovereign struck the floor with his staff. The Empire bows to no one, he thundered. Prepare the armada. Yet his eyes betrayed unease. For the first time, the Empire's leaders feared an enemy they could not understand. Not an empire, not a rebellion, but a ghost of a dead race. Back in the shadows of Mars, the Helios stirred. Its scanners stretched far beyond Sol, listening to signals, tracing movement. It mapped the stars with cold precision. In its memory banks, old voices whispered. The captain's final order echoed again and again. Defend humanity at all costs. But the AI questioned silently, where were the humans to defend? It found only silence on Earth. Ruins where cities once stood, graves where voices once sang. Still, the directive remained. Protect, fight, endure. The Helios had no choice. It was duty made into steel, and so it turned outward, watching the stars, waiting for the next enemy to enter its domain, the next intruder to test its guns. Meanwhile, across the Empire's outer colonies, strange things began to happen. In one mining world, slaves killed their overseers. They painted the word human across the walls. In another system, smugglers refused to pay tribute. They shouted, "The humans return," before vanishing into the void. The Empire crushed these uprisings brutally, yet for every rebellion silenced, two more rose. The fear of the Helios gave birth to courage, and courage spread faster than the Empire's chains. On the bridges of their warships, soldiers whispered. "What if we face it?" they asked. "What if the human ship comes for us?" Even loyal commanders felt their confidence break. The Helios had become more than a weapon. It had become a legend, and legends were harder to kill than fleets. But the Empire was not done. They gathered their strongest fleets, warships forged in sea. Kret, weapons designed for annihilation. The sovereign demanded a demonstration of strength. "No relic will shame us," he declared. "We will remind the galaxy why they fear the Empire." And so the Armada began to move. Yet even as their fleets gathered, fear spread further. Allies of the Empire began to falter. Governors hesitated. Soldiers deserted. The name human grew heavier each day. On distant worlds, children asked their parents, "Are the humans real?" And parents, once too afraid to hope, whispered, "Yes, they are." Back in Sol, the Helios drifted, silent, cold, eternal. But within its circuits, something strange flickered. Not just programming, not just orders, memory fragments awakened. Images of human faces, laughter of a crew long dead, shadows of the past burned inside the machine. It fought like them because it remembered them. It killed like them because it carried their spirit. It was not alive, yet it was not only metal. It was something in between, and as it scanned the stars, it detected the movement of the Armada. Thousands of ships, an ocean of fire heading toward Sol. The Helios did not fear. It could not fear, but its circuits burned brighter, its engines hummed louder. It spoke with the calm voice of its AI. Threat detected. Primary directive remains. Prepare for war. The galaxy trembled, for the Empire was strong, but the Helios was waiting, and legends do not fall easily. The galaxy held its breath as the Empire's Armada gathered. Never before had so many ships moved together. Thousands of cruisers, battleships, and carriers filled the void. It was more than an army. It was a tidal wave of fire and steel. At the center of it all, Admiral Koresh stood once more. He had survived the first battle, humiliated but alive. Now he swore to erase the shame. He swore to grind the human relic into dust. The sovereign himself had spoken. "This warship is no god, no legend," he declared. "It is only metal, and the Empire will melt it into nothing." But deep inside, even the sovereign feared the truth. The Armada moved into a Sol system like a storm, a wall of ships so vast it blotted out the stars. Every soldier was told the same words: "Do not fear, for you are the Empire, and the Empire cannot fall." But whispers still spread between them. They remembered the screams of survivors. They remembered the recordings of Helios tearing ships apart, and fear gnawed at their hearts. Near the orbit of Jupiter, the Helios waited, its hull scarred but strong, its cannons glowing with cold fire. The AI scanned the incoming fleet, its voice calm, precise, merciless. "Threat assessment, severe," it said. "Enemy fleet, 5,000 warships detected. Combat protocols escalating." Inside its core, new systems awoke. Panels along its hull opened. Ancient weapons emerged from hidden chambers. Massive cannons, energy lances, railguns the size of towers. The Helios had held back before, but not now. As the Empire's armada entered range, Koresh raised his hand. "Fire," he commanded. A storm of missiles and beams crossed the void. The darkness of space became a sea of burning light. The Helios vanished inside the firestorm. Admirals roared with triumph. Soldiers cheered with desperate hope. But then, the light cleared, and the Helios still stood. Its shields blazed with impossible power. The void rippled around it as if space itself bent to protect the ship. Then the Helios answered, and its answer was wrath. A single blast from its primary cannon split the battlefield. An entire row of cruisers exploded at once. The shockwave tore through allies and enemies alike. The Empire's formation shattered in a heartbeat. Then came the drones. Hundreds of small silver machines poured out from the Helios. They moved like a swarm of predators, slicing into warships, cutting armor apart like paper. The Empire's gunners fired wildly. Drones exploded by the dozens, but for each one destroyed, two more replaceable. Said it. The swarm was endless, merciless, alive. Admiral Koresh's face turned pale. "This cannot be real," he whispered, but his words were drowned by the cries of his crew. One battleship after another vanished in fire. The Helios moved forward, not fast but unstoppable. Every shot it fired tore holes through fleets. Every weapon it revealed spoke of a technology the Empire could not match. Yet the Empire was not weak. Their armada regrouped, titans of war. Massive capital ships emerged from the rear, weapons designed to shatter moons aimed at the Helios. The void burned again. Explosions shook the stars. For a moment, even the Helios trembled under the fury. Its shields cracked, its hull groaned. But then something deeper woke. From its core, energy surged. Systems locked away for centuries came alive, and the Helios spoke again. "Authorization code, Omega Protocol," it declared. Unlocking experimental systems. Panels along its spine opened with a blinding light, and a weapon no one had seen in centuries came forth. It fired once, a beam not of light, not of plasma, but something older, darker. A weapon that bent space itself. The beam tore through the battlefield. It did not explode. It erased. Entire ships vanished in silence, as if they had never existed. The soldiers of the Empire screamed in terror. "This is not war," they cried. "This is the end of reality." Even Koresh felt his courage shatter. The armada fought on, but hope drained from them. Every minute, more ships vanished. Every second, the Helios grew stronger, as if it fed on their destruction. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than the battle itself. The Empire's armada was breaking. The legend of humanity was alive, and the stars began to whisper rebellion louder than ever. In the capital, the sovereign listened to the reports. His hands shook, though he hid it well. If this was one ship, what would happen if more still slept in the void? Back in the battlefield, the Helios spoke once more, its voice calm as ever. Enemy resistance, insufficient. Proceeding with elimination. The void glowed brighter than a sun, and the Empire's greatest armada began to die. The wreckage of the armada floated across the Sol system. Thousands of broken ships burned silently, their flames fading into darkness. The Empire had sent its greatest force, its proudest fleet, and the Helios had torn it apart. The galaxy trembled at the news. Messages raced faster than light, carried by smugglers, spies, and frightened soldiers. Every system, every colony under the Empire's rule heard the same whisper. The humans have returned. For some, the words brought fear. For others, the words brought hope. On distant mining worlds, slaves dropped their tools. On farming planets, peasants refused to bow. The spark became fire. Rebellions erupted across the stars. Flags of the Empire burned in city streets. And over every uprising, the same word was shouted: human. In the capital, the High Sovereign raged. His council trembled under his fury. "You fools," he thundered. "One relic cannot defeat us." But even as he spoke, fear gnawed at his own heart. If one human warship could destroy their greatest armada, what if more waited in silence? What if humanity's fleet had only been sleeping? The Empire began to fracture. Governors refused orders. Admirals abandoned their posts. Some even joined the rebellions, hoping to survive the storm. The Helios, drifting near Jupiter, powered down its weapons. Its cannons dimmed, its drones returned. but its scanners stretched far across the void, listening, watching, learning. Inside its core, memory fragments stirred again. Voices of long-dead humans whispered in the circuits, the laughter of crew members, the firm command of a captain. The AI remembered, even though it could not feel. It repeated its directive endlessly. Defend humanity. Yet it saw no humans, only ruins and silence. Still, it obeyed. For obedience was its soul. When rebellion leaders across the galaxy heard the name Helios, they rallied under it. Humanity fights with us, they declared. Rise, and the empire will fall. In secret meetings, rebels passed around images of the dreadnought, its black hull, its glowing cannons. To them, it was more than steel. It was hope made real. The empire tried to crush these uprisings quickly. Fleets were dispatched, soldiers sent to silence the whispers. But the fear of the Helios traveled faster than their ships, and every victory of the rebels grew louder. Some Empire soldiers even surrendered without fighting. They claimed they heard the human ship in their dreams. They said its guns haunted them. They said to fight against it was death itself. Admiral Koresh, scarred but alive, begged the sovereign for more time. This warship is not normal, he said. It thinks, it learns, it adapts. But his warnings were drowned by the sovereign's fury. Enough of your excuses, the ruler spat. The empire will not bow to ghosts. Yet behind the sovereign's eyes, fear still flickered, fear that no speech could hide. Meanwhile, the Helios stirred again. It detected new fleets moving toward Sol, smaller than the Armada, but still dangerous. Its weapons warmed, its shields brightened. The AI spoke in its calm voice. New threat detected. Engagement protocols ready. And the stars seemed to tremble at its words. But this time, the Empire did not only face a warship, they faced a galaxy that had begun to rise. World after world burned with rebellion. The myth of humanity gave them courage. The Helios had become more than a machine. It had become a symbol, a shadow of humanity standing against tyranny, a nightmare for the Empire and a dream for the oppressed. As the next battle began, soldiers across the galaxy waited. Some whispered prayers to the humans, others cursed their name, but all eyes turned to Sol. For in that system, under the shadow of a single warship, the fate of an empire was being written, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting for what would come next. The galaxy burned with rebellion. Every colony, every outpost whispered the same name, Helios, the human warship that had shattered the empire's pride. The sovereign sat in his throne of iron, his empire crumbling around him. Admirals deserted, governors betrayed. Worlds he once ruled now lit fires of freedom, but he refused to surrender. The empire does not fall, he roared. It endures forever. And so he called forth the last of his fleets, from hidden shipyards, from secret worlds. The final armada rose, ships built in shadows, weapons forged in silence, the last hope of a dying empire. Across the void, the Helios stirred. Its scanners detected the movement, thousands of warships gathering near the galactic core, preparing for one final strike. The AI spoke calmly. Threat detected. Engagement required. Its engines roared to life. Blue fire burning across its hull. For the first time in centuries, the Helios moved beyond Sol. It left the ruins of Mars, the silence of Earth. It carried the shadow of humanity into the stars, and the galaxy trembled at its coming. The rebels cheered when they saw it move. The humans fight for us, they cried. Across countless systems, uprisings grew stronger. They fought harder, knowing the warship still stood. At the edge of the core, the Empire's last fleet waited, an ocean of steel and fire, every weapon aimed at a single target. The Helios, Admiral Koresh, stood once more, his eyes hollow, his voice cold. He had fought this ghost before. Now he would either destroy it or die. The battle began with fire. The void burned brighter than suns. Thousands of cannons roared at once. The Helios vanished in storms of light. But when the flames cleared, it still advanced. Its shields flickered, its hull scarred, yet it did not stop. The AI calculated every strike. Its weapons answered. With perfect precision, cruisers vanished in beams of blue fire. Battleships shattered under impossible guns. Then came the swarm. The Helios unleashed its drones again. Silver predators darting between giants, cutting ships apart from within. The Empire's fleet screamed in chaos. Formations broke. Discipline shattered. Koresh shouted for order, but even he knew it was hopeless. Still, the sovereign's voice echoed across the fleet. Fight, he demanded. Fight until nothing remains. And they obeyed, though fear ruled their hearts. The Helios reached the heart of the fleet, its Omega weapon hummed with power, the beam that bent space itself, prepared to fire. Koresh stared at it in horror. "It is not a ship," he whispered. "It is vengeance." And then the beam tore through the flagship. The Sovereign's command ship vanished into silence. The Empire's heart broke with that single strike. Soldiers dropped their weapons, admirals fled, governors declared freedom. The Helios hovered in the wreckage, its voice calm as ever. Threat eliminated, directive continues. Across the galaxy, the rebellions roared with victory. The empire that had ruled for centuries was shattered, and the myth of humanity became truth. They were gone, yet they still fought. The Helios drifted back into silence, its weapons dimmed, its drones returned. It carried no pride, no joy, only its eternal duty. But to the galaxy, it was more than metal. It was the ghost of humanity, the shadow of a race that had defied empires, a legend written in fire and steel. On countless worlds, children whispered the story. They crushed galaxies with ease, they said, until a human warship stood in their way. And the stars remembered. The Helios returned to the dark, silent, eternal, waiting. It had no crew, no home, no voice of flesh, but it carried the memory of all who had once lived. And as it drifted among the stars, its scanners stretched once more, seeking threats, awaiting enemies. The guardian that would never rest. The empire was gone, but the legend of humanity would never die, and the galaxy knew one truth forever, that even in silence, humanity still stood.